You've spent enough nights crying over people who didn't clap when you were winning. Enough time explaining yourself to those who never wanted to understand you. Now, it's your time. Your moment. And let me say this loud and clear. Focus on yourself and watch how the world begins to notice. Because here's the truth most won't tell you. Your growth doesn't need permission. Your glow doesn't need validation. Your journey doesn't need an audience. You're not here to fit in. You're here to stand out. If they're not watering your soul, don't let them shade your growth. Protect your peace like a queen protects her crown. Because without peace, even the most beautiful life feels like a battlefield. Your peace is not just a luxury, it's your foundation. It's the quiet strength behind every decision you make. The calm before your next breakthrough. The space where your spirit heals, your dreams grow, and your power regenerates. But sadly, most people give it away too easily. Bit by bit. To arguments that don't matter. To people who drain their energy. To situations that steal their joy. Look around. Every day, you're faced with a choice. Protect your peace or please the world. And too often, we choose the world. You text back when you don't want to. You show up when you're emotionally exhausted. You stay in conversations that feel like warfare to your soul. Why? Because we're taught to be polite, to be nice, to be accommodating. But listen, being at peace is more powerful than being liked. Being calm inside is more attractive than being impressive outside. Think of it like this. If a queen's crown is constantly being touched, tilted, or stolen, how can she walk with dignity? If your mental clarity and emotional balance are always under attack, how can you rise into the woman you're destined to be? Peace is not passive. It's fierce. It's something you fight for every day in the most elegant way. By saying no, by walking away, by ignoring noise, by choosing silence over drama. A real life example? Think of that co-worker who always pulls you into gossip. It's tempting. It makes you feel connected for a moment. But afterward, you're drained, distracted, and disconnected from your goals. That's the tax you pay every time you trade your peace for momentary approval. Now imagine this. You walk away from the conversation, put on your headphones, and dive into your work. You sip your coffee, breathe deep, and smile. Not because life is perfect, but because you chose you. You chose solitude. You chose the sunlight. You chose music. You chose friends. You chose discovery. You chose failure. You chose betrayal. You chose discomfort. You compare yourself to. That's how queens operate. Or let's talk about relationships. Ever stayed in a situationship that felt like emotional warfare? One day they love you, the next they ghost you. It's like walking on a tightrope, barefoot, every day. You lose sleep, you lose focus, you lose pieces of yourself, trying to hold on to someone who doesn't even know how to hold space for you. That's the peace tax again. And it's expensive. But when you choose to walk away, not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself more, that's when your crown starts to shine again. Even on social media, how many times do you scroll, compare, shrink, criticize yourself over filtered lies? You think you're catching up, but you're falling behind. In self-worth, in peace, in confidence. Protect your peace there too. Unfollow what triggers you. Block what belittles you. You don't owe anyone access to your mind. Peace is a boundary. Not everyone should be allowed in. Your home environment, your phone calls, your morning routine, they all play a role. If your mornings start with chaos, you carry that into the day. But if they start with stillness, intention, and focus, you become unstoppable. So guard your mornings like a queen guards her first breath of the day. Play music that uplifts. Light a candle. Breathe. Journal. Don't let notifications rob you before you've even risen. Every single day, you're wearing an invisible crown. Whether you see it or not, it's there. Through stress, through noise, through people who can't handle your light. That your job is to hold it high. Hold it with grace. Hold it with power. Because when your peace is protected, your power is undeniable. Ask ChatGPT. You said, expend the key point. Silence is a superpower. And make it lengthy in 600 wordings with motivational and mind-blowing dialogue that people will inspire from these words from different daily life example. In every key points. Don't add any ending sentence. Don't add any headings. ChatGPT said, silence is a superpower. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the one who remains calm becomes magnetic. Silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. The loudest voice in the room rarely holds the most power. The one who sits back, observes, and responds with precision. That's the real game changer. Think about it. How many times have you said something in anger, only to regret it later? How many times have you poured out your soul to someone who wasn't even listening? How many times have you responded instantly to a text that deserved nothing but silence? The truth is, silence protects your dignity. Silence guards your energy. Silence keeps your power intact when everything else is trying to pull it apart. Imagine being in an argument with someone who only wants to win, not understand. They yell, they twist words, they provoke. You feel your heart race, your face flush, your mind go blank with rage. But instead of clapping back, you take a breath and you walk away. That's power. That's control. You didn't lose your peace to prove a point. You didn't sacrifice your self-respect for temporary satisfaction. You chose silence. And in that moment you won. Not them. You. Because silence is not about what you don't say. It's about what you no longer feel the need to explain. Think of a woman working in a toxic environment. She's underestimated, spoken over in meetings, and constantly made to feel small. She could fight back with words, but instead, she lets her work speak. She keeps building. She keeps shining. She keeps showing up. Not with noise, but with undeniable results. Weeks pass, then months, and suddenly, everyone starts noticing her. Not because she demanded attention, but because her silence became undeniable strength. Her presence started speaking louder than their opinions. Or take heartbreak, when someone ghosts you, disrespects your love, or underestimates your worth. You feel the urge to call, to explain, to ask why. But then you choose silence. You stop chasing closure. You stop rewriting your value based on their actions. And in that stillness, you find yourself again. You glow again. You rise again. Because nothing terrifies a person more than the silence of someone who has finally decided to value themselves. Even on social media, people post their lives, their thoughts, their drama, their reactions. But there's something so powerful about being unbothered. You don't need to post everything. You don't need to respond to trolls. You don't need to validate your life online. You keep living. You keep moving. And your silence becomes louder than any caption. It becomes a statement that you are not here for noise. You are here for growth. Now picture a woman who's been betrayed. Friends turned into strangers. Love turned into lessons. She could expose them, shame them, scream her side of the story, but she chooses silence. Not because she's weak, but because she's done. Done playing small. Done explaining herself. Done trying to fix what wasn't meant for her. And the beauty? Her silence becomes her rebirth. The world watches her transformation, and those who doubted her can't look away. Because growth in silence is louder than any apology ever received. Silence is not about staying quiet. It's about speaking only when it's necessary. It's about choosing your battles. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that not everything deserves your voice. Because your voice is valuable, your energy is sacred, your peace is non-negotiable. And once you understand that, silence stops feeling like a void. It starts feeling like power. A power that doesn't react, it rises. A power that doesn't prove, it performs. Cut off the noise, even if it's familiar. That's one of the hardest lessons in personal growth. Because the most dangerous noise often doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people closest to you. The ones you've known forever. The ones who carry memories but no longer match your vision. The ones who keep you stuck with their limitations disguised as love. Sometimes it's not the world holding you back. It's your circle. And that's why this step is the most painful, yet the most powerful. Imagine a young woman trying to build her own business. She's excited, full of ideas, working late nights, pushing through fear. But every time she shares her vision with her old friends, they laugh it off. Come on, nobody's going to buy that. You're wasting your time. Just get a normal job. And because she loves them, she listens. Because their voices are familiar, she starts to doubt. That's the noise. The noise that sounds like love but feels like a leash. And when she finally realizes that their comfort zone isn't her destination, she makes the hard choice. She distances herself. She stops oversharing. She surrounds herself with dreamers instead of doubters. And that's when she starts rising. Not because the circumstances changed, but because the noise was gone. Or think about family. You want to make a life choice, move abroad, start over, marry someone they don't approve of, or maybe just choose solitude for a while. But they don't understand. They guilt trip you. You've changed. That's not how we raised you. You're being selfish. And it breaks your heart because you love them deeply. But love should not be a reason to drown in expectation. Familiar voices often speak the loudest in your moments of transformation. They'll remind you of who you were, not who you're becoming. And in those moments, your growth demands boundaries. Not disrespect, not rebellion, just quiet distance. You choose to protect your future, even if it means disappointing your past. Take friendships too. You used to talk every day. Gossip, party, waste time. But now you're focused. You want more. You're chasing goals, healing, evolving. And suddenly, their conversations start feeling empty. You try to inspire them, but they mock your new lifestyle. And now, you're torn. Loyalty or progress. But here's the truth. Real loyalty isn't about staying the same. It's about supporting each other's evolution. And when that support fades, you're allowed to outgrow people. Yes, even the ones who once felt like home. Because not every home is meant to be permanent. Some are just chapters. And growth requires turning the page. Even your own thoughts can be familiar noise. Old narratives that say, you're not good enough, you'll fail, what if they leave? These voices may sound like your own, but they were planted by others, by experiences, rejection, trauma. And just because they echo in your mind doesn't mean they define your path. Cutting off the noise sometimes means healing your own voice, replacing fear with belief, replacing overthinking with action, replacing doubt with discipline. Imagine this. You wake up early, the world is still, no notifications, no opinions, just your breath, your goals, your energy. You journal, meditate, maybe hit the gym. You don't tell anyone your plans, you just execute. That's what cutting the noise looks like. Peaceful, powerful, intentional. It's walking alone in clarity rather than walking with a crowd in confusion. It's turning down the volume on distractions, drama, and outdated versions of yourself. It's saying, I'm done explaining. I'm done proving. I'm done shrinking to fit into places I've already outgrown. And it's realizing that peace isn't found in the familiar. It's created in the quiet. Cut off the noise. even if it's familiar. Because sometimes the voice is holding you back where the faces you've known your whole life. They smile, they care, but they don't understand your journey. And just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. Comfort can be a prison. Familiarity can be a trap. Growth requires space. And that space often begins where the noise ends. You're trying to change your life. You've started waking up early, working on yourself, setting goals. But your closest friends keep pulling you into the same old habits. Why are you being so serious? One night out won't kill you. You've changed. Yes, you have. That's the point. But they say it like it's a bad thing. And because they're your people, people you've laughed with, cried with, you start questioning yourself. That's the noise. It doesn't scream. It whispers in your insecurities. It plays in your guilt. And it tells you to shrink so they can stay comfortable. You're allowed to disconnect from people you love. Growth is personal. It doesn't require validation. Cutting off the noise doesn't mean cutting off love. It means choosing peace over pressure, clarity over chaos. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish them well without letting them steer your direction. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish the journey. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you start becoming who you were meant to be. Think about family. You want to take a different path? Maybe leave your hometown, start a business, live alone. But they can't see your vision. They want to keep you safe, grounded, predictable. So they wrap their fear in advice. That's not stable. You're being irresponsible. What if you fail? They mean well, but their words become weights on your wings. Familiar words, spoken from love, but rooted in fear. And if you don't silence that noise, you start living a life they can accept, not a life you actually want. You're not ungrateful for choosing differently. You're just aware. Aware that your future is yours. Aware that your calling can't be answered on someone else's terms. Aware that the life you desire won't be found in the echoes of someone else's comfort zone. Take a look at social media. You're scrolling, comparing, watching highlight reels of people pretending to have it all, and suddenly your progress feels too slow. Your life feels too small. That's the noise too. It creeps in, tells you you're behind, tells you you're not enough. But none of it is real. Most of what you see is performance, not truth. The real growth happens in the background, in silence, in discipline, in the spaces no one sees. You have to mute the noise of the world to hear the whispers of your soul. The noise of the world to hear the whispers of your soul. Even your own thoughts can betray you. That inner critic that keeps replaying past failures, missed chances, heartbreaks. It's familiar, so you believe it. But it's still noise. You are not your past. You are not your fear. You are not the version of yourself that others remember. You are allowed to reinvent, restart, and rise without explanation. Cutting off the noise is hard, especially when it feels like home. But what good is a home that doesn't let you breathe? That doesn't celebrate your evolution? Growth feels lonely at first, but it's the kind of lonely that builds legends. You stop seeking approval. You stop defending your dreams. You stop justifying your boundaries. Because you realize that silence is where power is born, and peace is where clarity lives. The noise may be familiar, but your destiny is not. Reclaim your time, energy, and worth. Because you've given too much of yourself to people who never deserved you in the first place. You've stayed too long in places that drained you, conversations that broke you, and relationships that made you question your value. And now, it's time to take it all back, not with revenge, not with anger, but with clarity and grace. You see, the most powerful comeback doesn't come from proving them wrong. It comes from finally choosing yourself. Your time is your life in minutes. Every hour you spend explaining yourself to someone who refuses to understand you, that's time you'll never get back. Every day you spend overthinking about someone who ghosted you, that's energy you could have poured into your growth. Every week spent chasing people who wouldn't even walk for you, that's your worth. Being handed away like it means nothing. But the moment you realize your worth isn't up for negotiation, you start to reclaim everything they tried to steal. Imagine this: a woman working a job where she's overqualified, underpaid, and constantly overlooked. She shows up early, stays late, puts her heart into every task, but her efforts are invisible to the people above her. They expect her silence, her sacrifices, her compliance. And for years, she gives it to them because she was raised to be loyal, to be patient, until one day she looks in the mirror and asks, "What am I waiting for? Their permission or my power?" That's when she updates her resume, applies to roles that match her value, and walks out with her head high. That's reclamation. She took her time, her energy, and her worth and used it to build a life where she's seen. Think about a relationship. You pour love into someone who's half present, half interested, emotionally unavailable. You adjust, compromise, make excuses. You accept breadcrumbs and call it a feast. But one morning, you wake up emotionally exhausted. You realize you've been bending so far to make it work that you've forgotten how to stand tall. And then something shifts inside you. Not a scream, but a quiet knowing. I deserve more. You stop begging. You stop checking your phone. You stop explaining why you're hurt. That silence, that's power. That decision to leave, that's worth. That peace you feel after, that's your energy finally returning to its rightful owner. Even your daily routine holds clues to how much you've let others consume your power. How many times have you said yes to things that made you feel no inside? How many times have you ignored your body's need for rest just to be available for someone else's chaos? That's not kindness. That's self-betrayal. You're not here to be a convenience to others. You're here to become the best version of yourself. And that requires boundaries. Saying no. Turning off your phone. Taking time for yourself. Not feeling guilty for resting. Not apologizing for growing. Picture a woman who once tried to be everything for everyone. She answered every call, replied to every message, showed up even when her soul was breaking. But the more she gave, the less she had for herself. Until one day, she stopped. She deleted the numbers that only called when they needed something. She stopped being the emergency contact for people who were never there during her breakdowns. She created space. And in that space, she found joy, found healing, found herself. Because when you reclaim your time, you finally have room to become who you were always meant to be. Even in friendships, you start to notice the one-sided energy, the constant giving, the fake support. And instead of complaining, you simply step back. You stop pouring into cups that don't pour back. You stop begging for loyalty from people who disappear in silence. You realize that your worth isn't in how much you give, it's in knowing when to stop. You choose quality over history. You choose peace over popularity. You choose peace over popularity. You choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. Because when you reclaim your time, energy, and worth, you stop chasing attention and you start attracting everything you deserve. Be obsessed with your own evolution. Because no one else is coming to save you, and no one else is responsible for your growth. Your life is your masterpiece. Your mind is your garden, and your soul is your responsibility. Farewell, my friend. Every day you wake up with two choices: repeat your past or reinvent your future. The world will try to distract you with noise, with drama, with pressure to conform. But your job is to stay locked in on one mission: to become the woman you were born to be. Evolution isn't a one-time glow-up. It's a daily decision. a conscious choice to elevate, even when no one's watching, even when no one's sharing. You can change even when no one's watching, even when no one's sharing. You can change even when no one's... It's pushing through the days when motivation runs dry. It's reading that extra page when your eyes are tired. It's hitting the gym when your mind tells you to rest. It's turning down the party so you can rise early and build your legacy. Growth isn't glamorous. It's gritty. And only the obsessed survive it. Imagine a woman who was once broken, insecure, quiet in rooms where she should have roared, but something in her shifted. Not overnight, but moment by moment. She started journaling, meditating, learning, healing. She became obsessed with her evolution, not because she hated who she was, but because she knew who she could become. She wasn't chasing perfection, she was chasing alignment. And the deeper she went into her own growth, the less attention she needed from the world. She didn't need applause anymore. She became the show. Applause woke, alignment, 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 alignment. In your daily life, this means auditing what you feed your mind. Are you scrolling endlessly, consuming junk, comparing yourself to people who don't even know who they are? Or are you intentional, listening to powerful podcasts, reading books that stretch your thinking, watching content that inspires your discipline? You become what you consume. And the person obsessed with evolution doesn't leave that to chance. She curates her mental diet like her future depends on it. Because it does. Think of your physical health. You could say you don't have time. Or you could look in the mirror and say, if I don't take care of this body, where will I live? That's evolution. Waking up early to move your body when no one's forcing you to. Choosing clean fuel when the world is surviving on fast fixes. You're not doing it to impress anyone. You're doing it because you respect yourself enough to build stamina for the life you want. Even emotionally, evolution is cutting cords with your past self. The version of you that begged for love, that stayed silent to keep the peace, that said yes when her soul was screaming no. You start responding differently. You stop seeking closure. You stop explaining your growth. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You become allergic to drama. At first, they'll say, you've changed. And your answer will be, thank God I did. Picture someone criticizing your dreams, doubting your hustle, dismissing your transformation. The old you would argue, defend, shrink, but the evolved you, she stays silent, smiles, and keeps building. Because when you're obsessed with evolution, opinions don't shake you. Only lack of progress does. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. That obsession makes you unstoppable. While others are partying, you're planning. While others are scrolling, you're scaling. While others talk, you walk. And then you soar. This obsession also means falling in love with discomfort. With growth that doesn't feel good. With being a beginner again. You start that course. You ask the questions. You fail and keep going. Because nothing humbles and sharpens you like starting from scratch. You trade ego for elevation. You let go of what's easy for what's necessary. And that's where real power is born. Not in being admired, but in being unstoppable. Glow without guilt, because dimming your light doesn't help anyone see better. You weren't born to shrink, you weren't designed to blend in. You are a force, and you are allowed to shine unapologetically. The world has conditioned so many women to be small, to be quiet, to take up less space. But the truth is, your glow isn't arrogance, it's alignment. And when you start living fully, fiercely and freely. Some people will feel uncomfortable. That's not your burden to carry. Think of the moments where you've achieved something big, graduated, got a promotion, launched your dream, started glowing differently. And instantly, instead of celebrating, you felt like you had to downplay it. You made your win sound smaller. You acted like it wasn't a big deal. You didn't post it, didn't mention it, because you didn't want to seem too much. But let me ask you, why should you apologize for doing what you were born to do? If your success makes someone else insecure, it's not a sign for you to shrink. It's a sign for them to grow. Imagine a woman who's worked on herself in silence for years. She healed from trauma, let go of toxic relationships, elevated her mindset, and started building a beautiful life. She changed her style, her habits, her circle. She started glowing, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But then came the whispers. She's changed. She's too confident now. She thinks she's better. That's how people react when they can't recognize the version of you that no longer fits into their comfort zone. But this woman, she didn't tone it down. She smiled, straightened her posture, and kept glowing. Because her light wasn't for show, it was her rebirth. Even in friendships, this shows up. You start to level up. You set boundaries. You say no more often. You stop entertaining gossip and start focusing on growth. Suddenly, the group chat gets quiet. They say, you're too busy or acting different. And they're right. You are different. You're evolving. You're choosing peace over popularity. And it's not your job to dim down so others can stay comfortable in their chaos. Or take relationships. You fall in love with yourself first. You raise your standards. You stop accepting bare minimum love. You become magnetic, not because of how you look, but because of the energy you carry. You walk into a room and command presence without saying a word. And some people, they don't know how to handle a woman who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't settle. So they label you too intimidating. But the truth is, they've just never met a woman who glows from within. Don't shrink to fit into a box you've already outgrown. Even at work, you show up prepared, you speak with power, and your presence starts shifting the environment. Suddenly your confidence is misread as cockiness. You're told to soften your tone, be more agreeable. But why is it that when men speak with authority, they're called leaders? But when a woman does it, she's called difficult. Your glow is not a problem. Their insecurity is. Think about everyday life. You dress how you want. You walk like you know who you are. You laugh loudly. You take pictures without filters. You celebrate yourself even if no one else claps. And you do it not for attention, but for liberation. Because you finally realize that shrinking won't save you. You've played small for too long. You've made yourself invisible just to be accepted. And now you're reclaiming all of it. Your joy, your beauty, your brilliance. When you glow without guilt, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror of what's possible. You show women they don't have to apologize for loving themselves, for leveling up, for becoming whole. And let's be honest, you weren't made to hide. You were made to shine. Let them talk. Let them stare. You're not glowing for them. You're glowing for every version of you that was once afraid to be seen. You've been told to wait, to be patient, to stay quiet. You've been told that your dreams are too big, your presence is too loud, your standards are too high, and your glow is too much. But today, that narrative ends. Today you walk into the fullness of who you are, not with hesitation, but with conviction. Because the truth is, you don't need anyone's permission to evolve. You don't need a crowd to clap before you rise. You don't need validation to know that you are already enough. There comes a moment in every powerful woman's life when she stops asking and starts becoming. When she stops looking back at who she was and starts building the woman she's meant to be. When silence becomes her answer, peace becomes her protection, growth becomes her addiction, and glow becomes her language. There comes a moment in every powerful woman's life when she starts asking and starts becoming. When she starts asking and starts becoming. When she starts asking and starts becoming glow. When she starts asking and starts becoming glow. When she starts asking, that moment is now. You see, no one is going to come hand you your destiny. No one is going to show up with a map that leads you to greatness. You have to create it, brick by brick, day by day, step by step, with tired eyes, with a trembling heart, with silent discipline. You have to become the architect of your own life. Because queens don't wait to be crowned. They build their own throne. So focus on yourself, even when the world tells you it's selfish. It's not. It's survival. When you focus on yourself, you stop leaking energy. You stop pouring into people who leave you empty. You stop negotiating with chaos. You start building. You start healing. You start rising. You shift from why me to watch me. From I can't do this to I was born for this. That's when your power begins to roar. Reclaim your time, not in anger, but in wisdom. Reclaim your energy, not with force, but with grace. Now is not the time to pour your life into abundance. The world needs you, your talents, your skills, your brain, your heart, your body, your voice, your eyes, your heart, your brain, your heart. Reclaim your worth. Not because someone else finally sees it, but because you finally do. You can't pour from an empty cup, they say. And they're right. But what they forget to mention is that you are the one who decides who drinks from it in the first place. Protect your peace, guard your glow, and choose yourself like your future depends on it. Because it does. Let them call you different. Let them call you difficult. Let them whisper that you've changed. You have. And that's the point. The version of you that tolerated less, settled often, apologized quickly, that version no longer exists. And like the moon, you must go through phases of emptiness to feel full again. You've faced the shadows. You've walked through the fire. Now, it's your time to shine without shame. Be obsessed with your own evolution. Love yourself so deeply that your growth becomes a love letter to your past self. The one who doubted, the one who feared, the one who almost gave up. Because she fought for this version of you. Don't let her effort go in vain. Build the empire she dreamed of. Live the peace she prayed for. Be the woman she needed. And as you rise, don't you dare dim your light for anyone. Your playing small does not serve the world, said Marianne Williamson. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to be bold. You were born to stand tall. You were born to walk into rooms and change the temperature with your presence. Don't tone it down. Don't hide your magic. Own every inch of your power and glow without guilt. The future belongs to the women who are done waiting, done shrinking, done playing nice. The future belongs to the focused, the healed, the relentless, the unapologetic, the glowing, the evolving. The queens who didn't need a spotlight because they became the light. So go. Build the life they said you'd never have. Become the woman they didn't believe could exist. Walk into every chapter with your crown high, your heart unshaken, and your soul on fire. Because you weren't born to be ordinary. You were born to be unforgettable.